the high-end and supercars and sports cars that GTA 5 Online offers and has in the game. But what about the vehicles that can be found just out on the street and that you can keep for yourself for your GTA Online character? Well, this video is going to be my top 5 list of the best street vehicles that you can keep in GTA Online. And so let's go ahead and get right on into it. Number 5, I have the Karen Futo. And so this car here is, the reason why this is number 5 is because it's definitely, it looks pretty good. It's got a lot of customization to it, but it's not exactly the fastest car that you can find on the street, and it doesn't have the most amount of customization, but it does still have a lot of customization with it. But this car, it's really, the reason why it's known is because before there was drifting cars and drift races in GTA, this was really like the king of being able to drift in GTA. This was the only car that could truly drift in the game, other than maybe a few other cars, but this was like the best one to get because it was just straight off the street and just so easy to get into. Let's go ahead and go to the customs here and show the amount of actual customization that this vehicle offers for itself. Alright, so here we are going inside, and if I go straight to the bumpers, we have a few options here. Same thing with the rear bumpers, you have a few options. And it's cool because it has drifting options too, that you call the drift bumper. You got exhaust options as well. These are actually new, this originally didn't come with the car. But you have grill options, there's hoods, and really as you just go through this whole list, you can see that there's multiple different ways to customize this car and different builds that you can do with it. And that's why I had to put it at number 5, is because it kind of just does a little bit of everything really well. And also, it's the first of the Japanese cars on this list. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. For the number 4 spot here, I've got the Vapid Dominator. And so I feel like this one might be controversial, but this might be kind of more of opinion based. But I had to put this car on the list because it's probably the best muscle car that you can definitely get off the street. And this is actually, I believe, the second fastest vehicle on this list, top speed wise. But acceleration wise, I don't think it's the fastest, but top speed it is. But once again, this car, it drives pretty great. It's really fast. It's got good handling, just the traction isn't really the greatest, but that's alright. But let's go ahead and go to the customization and show you all the customs available for this car. So once again, it's got a few here. It's got bodywork, these little vents on the sides that you can put on. It's got the roof options here for the rear louvers and stuff like that, and a carbon roof. You can put a carbon hood on it if you want. You can change up the grill here. But as you can see, there's not a whole lot. There's definitely less customization for this than there was for the Futo. So there's not exactly crazy different variations in the builds that you can do for this car, but there's definitely still enough to make your own custom look for it. But as you can see here, I got this red and white one. It's a good looking car. It drives great. The only issue though about this car, I would say, is that for some reason I feel like this is the hardest car to find, just randomly spawning out in the free roam on the streets. So for some reason this is kind of the rarest of these 4 cars, but you can also always buy it if you really want it, or you can just wait till you randomly encounter it on the street. But that's my number 4 spot. Alright, so for my number 3 spot here, I've got the benefactor Schwarzer. And so this car here is definitely one of the best cars in the street now that we're in the top 3. I mean, it sounds good, it looks really nice. And honestly, once you modify it, it's kind of hard to believe that this car comes off the street, I feel like. It definitely looks like you probably had to pay a bunch of $1,000s in the game. But it's probably my favorite looking car. Performance wise, it's definitely pretty fast. It's got good acceleration and great handling and pretty good traction too. So it really does all of that. It's also a nice drifting vehicle too. But this is easy to find on the streets, unlike how the Dominator is. But let's go ahead and look at all the customization options that are available for this car. And I believe this one does have quite a bit and more than the previous 2 cars. So once again, front bumpers. I mean, look at this. You get a whole list of options here, and you get quite a bit on the rear too, a little bit. You get your exhaust options. You get many options here. And the list just, I mean, goes on and on. There's countless amount of mods and builds that you can do for this car. It's actually quite good for just being a street vehicle. So roll cage options too. I mean, you can even get the bolted on fenders if you wanted. There's roof options too. I mean, roof fins and all this. So you can definitely put your own twist and your own spin on this car. I like the grill options too on this vehicle. It's really nice. But that's my number 3 spot. Number 2 spot here, I've got the Karen Sultan. And so why this car is above the previous car is this may not look as good, or looks are kind of, you know, person to person, but this car, you can at least take it to Benny's and get a whole new car from it, unlike the previous 3 cars. That's why this is number 2. And why it's not number 1 is because it's not exactly the fastest car, and it's probably not the best looking car or like the coolest car, but still a good looking car. I mean, this is based off of like a 2005 Lexus IS 300 or a Evo 9 or even a Subaru if you wanted to. But here I've got it built like the car from Baby Driver, the movie. But once again, I'm gonna go ahead and go inside here to show you guys all the custom options for it just being the standard Karen Sultan. But you can always take it to Benny's to get the Benny's upgraded, of course, to get the Sultan RS. Once again, you got a handful of bumper options here, not a whole lot, less than the previous car. You got quite a bit of foot options too, which is nice. You have the roll cage that you can add, and actually the roll cage adds this little Sultan RS badge on the side. And if you were to have this and you pop open the hood, it'll put 2 turbos inside the engine bay too, which would be pretty cool to look at. But once again, just 1 skirt options. This is where I think the car actually looks the best, is when you choose this kind of spoiler that you want on it. So then, now we can go ahead and look at the wheels. It's got kind of your standard stuff, and with a little bit, I would say the customizations, you know, halfway there. It's got some, but not a whole lot. But definitely enough for you to make unique and different looking builds with the car. And overall, this is just a nice car to get off the street because it's 4 doors, which is something that the rest of the cars on the list do not do. So having the 4-door option is always there. So that's why this is at the number 2 spot. For the number 1 spot here, I have the Sentinel XS, and so this car here is the fastest car on the list, and that's because you can get the HSW upgrade on it at the car meet location. And then the second reason why is because I believe this car has the most customization to it, with all of the different hoods and bumpers and spoilers and diffusers that you can put on the car. And it's just a very nice looking car. Out of all the BMWs in the game, which we don't really have that many, or at least that many like sports cars with BMWs, this is definitely like probably my second favorite one, just behind the Cypher being my like favorite BMW in the game, and this is probably my second one. But let's go ahead and just look at the customization options here inside of the regular customs shop. Excuse me there. And so once again, this car is straight off the street, just like the rest of the ones on the list. And look at all these bumper options. You can do so many different builds. It's actually pretty nice. And originally when this car was first in the game, it never had all these customization options, and honestly, without it being like this, it probably would have listed like number 3 on the list. But with it being able to get HSW and all of the different options added to it, it's now probably number 1 in the game. Now I could definitely see somebody wanting to switch, you know, 1, 2, and 3 around a little bit, but me personally, I feel like those are definitely the top 3 best street vehicles, and they're all just nice to have. Even as somebody who has $400 million, it's just because these cars are always cool to drive around. They're always reliable, they're always quick and easy to just grab off the street real quick, and they're always fun to just modify because they're cheap to modify, really. They only cost you, you know, $100,000 or so to get all the stuff done to it. But just by looking around the car here, you can kind of see why this is number 1. It kind of speaks for itself, but overall, that's my list 1 through 5, or 5 through 1. And I just want to clarify this at the end of the video. These are all vehicles that you can go and take into the custom shop in GTA Online. They're not cars that like just genuinely spawn on the street, because there's high-end cars that spawn on the street that you can't like take into the custom shop. Like for example, I think right up here is the Feltzer. If I was making top 5 vehicles just out on the street in GTA, I would have had this as one of the ones in that list. I would have had like the Carbonizer on the list. I would have had the Dubachi on the list. I would have had the Infernus as probably number 1. They have to be cars that you can actually keep and own, that you can obtain from off the street. So just if there's any confusion, I wanted to go ahead and clear that up at the end of the video. But other than that, that's all I've got for you guys today. If you like this list, give me your feedback and ideas in the comments section down below. Hit the like button, it helps me out. Subscribe if you're new and if you want to see my future content. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.